How does sensory deprivation cause hallucinations? Imagine being in a room with no sound, no light, and no touch for hours or even days. It might sound like a nightmare, but some experiments show that this kind of environment can make your mind create its own worlds. When your senses are cut off, your brain gets very little information from the outside. Instead of staying quiet, it starts to generate its own signals to fill the silence. This internal noise can be so vivid that your brain interprets it as real sensations, leading to hallucinations. Sensory deprivation usually involves blocking out sight, sound, and sometimes touch. For example, floating in a sensory deprivation tank or wearing a blindfold and earplugs can create this effect. When your brain receives no new input, it begins to amplify the neural activity that normally stays quiet. This is similar to turning up the volume on a radio that's already faint. The brain then interprets these amplified signals as flashes of light, strange sounds, or even entire scenes. In the visual system, when your eyes see only a uniform color or darkness, your brain stops responding to that steady input. Instead, it starts to produce geometric shapes, flashes of color, or moving patterns. This is called the Ganzfeld effect. It shows how your brain tries to make sense of the lack of visual information by creating its own images. Hallucinations during sensory deprivation are also linked to changes in brain activity in areas that process perception. Normally, sensory input keeps these areas in check. When input stops, the brain's internal rhythms, especially gamma oscillations, can become disconnected from reality. This disconnect allows spontaneous thoughts or memories to be mistaken for real perceptions. The longer someone stays in sensory deprivation, especially if they are alert or stressed, the more intense and bizarre the hallucinations can become. Sleep deprivation and stress reduce the brain's ability to tell what's real from what's imagined. This is why some people experience vivid, sometimes frightening hallucinations after extended periods of sensory silence. From experiments with sensory deprivation tanks or special goggles, we see how the brain is not just a passive receiver. It actively creates sensory experiences when deprived of external stimuli. Sometimes these hallucinations are simple flashes, but they can also be complex scenes or voices. These strange responses show how our minds are wired to interpret even the quietest environments in fascinating ways. Understanding how sensory deprivation causes hallucinations helps us learn about conditions like psychosis and schizophrenia, where similar brain mechanisms may be involved. It also reveals how our brains can produce entire worlds from nothing but silence and darkness. These experiments reminded us that our perception of reality is a delicate balance between what we sense and what our minds generate.